everyone. Welcome to Sociology Analytica. I'm Pooja Prasanna, your Sociology faculty. So let's discuss fourth question of the series. Before going to the fourth question, so I just want to tell something. I was just going through your answers which was posted on the website, and one thing I noticed is that most of you are just copy pasting content from some books, from some websites, etc. Please don't do this, because the whole purpose of this initiative is that you will learn something, okay, or you will improve your answer writing. So please, from now onwards, if any question comes, what you have to do is please study from any website or any textbook, but then please write on your own, okay. I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell. Fine. Now let's move forward with our question. So the question was, critically examine positivistic approach in sociological studies. Okay, the question is critically examine positivistic approach in sociological study. It is a 15-marker question. 15 marker means you have to write 200 words. Okay, you have to write 200 words. So that means you have to write 3 sides. Fine, understood? So let's try to understand the question. The question is critically examine. Question is about critically examine. So what you have to do? So whatever the keyword is, what they are asking you to discuss, they are asking you to discuss about positivistic approach. So you should not simply write what is positivist approach and then end it. No, you have to critically examine. That means you have to write the criticism of positivistic approach. Did you understand? So the main aspect of this question is to write criticism. Understood? So now let's start with the introductory para. Introduction should be on what? Introduction should always be on the keyword. Here, what is the keyword? The keyword is positivistic approach. So I'm going to define what is positivistic approach in my introductory para. Fine. So you can write any definition. You can write a generalized definition, or you can write a definition given by a thinker. What I have done is I have taken the definition which is given by Auguste Comte, because Auguste Comte is the first person who actually told that we need to study sociology from a scientific perspective, or from the positivistic perspective. So I have taken the definition given by Auguste Comte. So what's the definition? Simple definition. Positivism is an approach of studying sociology which aims at employing principles similar to those of the natural science. It simply means study sociology using natural phenomena or natural science principles. Fine. Give a simple definition. Now moving on to the body part. In the body, you have to write whatever it has been asked in the question. So they are asking critically examine positivistic approach. See, I did say that you have to write criticism, and that is the main part. Though it is the main part, you should not start with criticism. You should always try to explain what the concept or what the keyword, at least in few lines or at least in few points, then move to the criticism part. Okay. So what I have done is, as you have given, or you have already given, what is the definition of positivism, you can start your body by giving examples of which all thinkers who have studied positivism, who have studied sociology from positivism. Any example, as like you can think of Durkheim or Auguste Comte, Spencer, Merton, or Karl Marx. Even Karl Marx has also studied a little bit from positivistic perspective. Durkheim, you can simply give, he has studied suicide from positivism, okay, something like that. Any one or two is more than sufficient. Fine. Now next part is characteristic. See, you have to write little bit about what is positivistic approach and why they are criticized in the next part. And you can write any characters. Please see, the characteristic of positivism, there are too many points are there, but that is not our focus. Our focus is criticism. So what you have to do is just write at least 5 to 6, 4, 5 points. That is more than sufficient. Understood? So what I have taken is, I have given for this particular question, if you write 5 points or 5 characteristic of positivism, it is more than sufficient. So characteristic one by one. Positivism, so there is directly observable facts. So whenever you study from positivistic approach, how will you be studying facts? Directly observable. However the facts are, you will take it on the face value. Next, external reality. External reality means what? You will not be understanding, you will not try to understand the internal meaning of human beings, what they are feeling, emotions, and all those things you will not try to understand. Whatever the external reality is there, you will just understand that, whatever it is. Next, cause effect. Everyone must be knowing what is cause effect. Cause effect means, so for every action, so there is certain cause, there is certain reason why action is taking place. So positivistic approach always try to understand the cause effect reaction to every action. Fine. The next is they usually will be using scientific methods. Just like any other natural science, they are also using scientific methods. And then important part is inductive approach. You must be knowing inductive and deductive. Positivist, to a greater extent, they will be using inductive approach. Some positivists have used deductive approach, no doubt about it, but mostly they will be focusing on inductive approach. So you can write some 5 points, any 5 generalized point you can write, that is sufficient for this particular question. Now, the important part is the criticism of positivism, because that is our question. Okay. So now coming to criticism, see, you must be knowing this by now that there is positivistic approach, and then most of them, the other school of branch of school is non-positivistic approach. Okay, positivist and non-positivist. So basically, who are non-positivist, anti-positivist, all of them are basically those people who criticized positivism. Positivism told that we should study, sociology using these, characteristics. But then there are some non-positivist, anti-positivist who did not believe the way positivists studied the society. And what we have to do is, we have to write all of the people who criticized positivism. So for this particular question, how you can approach is, you can go from school by school, okay, school of thought, one after other. If you write that, actually your answer will look very good, okay, your answer will look very good, very concise, and the evaluator will feel that, okay, you know what you are writing, you know different school of thought, and you know how different school of thought has criticized positivism. So what I tell you is, so whenever there is a criticism of positivism comes, always try to write from school of thought point of view. Okay, so how I have taken is, so first criticism is given by, let's say here I have taken interpretative school. Interpretative school has criticized first. So in interpretative school, you can write any one name, one or two name, that's more than sufficient. One is sufficient. If you know more than one name, you can add extra name also. How you can write is, interpretative school backed by Weber or Dilthey has criticized, how they have criticized positivism. So what they criticize? They say that we need to understand the internal reality. They say we need to understand internal reality. We need to study society from micro perspective, because positivists say that we need to study external reality and we need to study from a macro perspective. But then interpretative schools say we need to study from internal reality and micro perspective. Okay, this like one line. Don't write more, just write in a one-liner. Fine. Let's go to the next school of thought who criticized positivism, and that is phenomenology. Phenomenologists like Peter Berger, Alfred Schutz, both are, see, write one name, that is sufficient, either Peter Berger or Alfred Schutz. What does, how do they criticize? See, positivists study objective reality. Okay, they study objective reality, that is they have a objective understanding of objective reality. But then phenomenologists say, no, you need to have a subjective understanding. Okay, you need to have a subjective understanding. Subjective understanding means what? You need to interpret. You need to interpret what people are thinking. You need to interpret the internal meaning. Okay, so because everybody's reality is different, you cannot have a same reality. Everyone cannot have a same reality. So phenomenologists say we need to have a subjective understanding of subjective reality. Like this, in a one-liner, it is more than sufficient. Next, go to the next school of thought, that is postmodernism. Postmodernists, who are postmodernists? Postmodernists like, here I have taken Derrida. Okay, Derrida or Foucault, both of them are postmodernists. What do postmodernists say? Postmodernists say there is no way, or they are against meta-narrative. They are against meta-narratives, or meta-narratives are also called as grand theory. They are also called as grand theory. Why they are against? Because, see, positivists believe in grand theory, but then postmodernists say that there is no eternal truth, there is no single truth, so you cannot have a grand theory. So every incident can have its own theory. Every situation, every social institution, every social reality can have its own theory. So we cannot have a grand theory. Okay. Next point I have taken from interactionist, that is symbolic interactionist. So you can write thinkers like Mead, C.H. Cooley, Herbert Blumer, any name you can think of, you can write. So what does interactionist say? See, positivists say that the reality is same. There is an objective reality and there is only external reality. This is what they say. But then interactionists say, no, how people come up with a reality after action and interaction. So there is a constant action and interaction. After every action and interaction, the meanings are created. So meanings keeps changing every time. As meanings keeps changing every time, you cannot have a objective reality, or you cannot just study from a external reality perspective. Did you understand? So like this you can write from interactionist school. Let's go to the next school, and that is ethnomethodology. Ethnomethodology, one famous thinker is Garfinkel. He is the father of ethnomethodology. How does ethnomethodologists criticize positivists? See, positivists say that study however the society, study what ought to be, what society is, okay, how society should be. Sorry, positivists say study that how society should be. But then ethnomethodologists say, no, don't study how society should be, what society should be, just study how society ought to be. Okay, understand? However societies, just study like that. Just try to understand how the people are creating the meaning of the society, how they are trying to tackle the society, how they are trying to tackle the problems of the society. Because every people try to tackle the problem differently. However they come across from the previous understanding, from whatever the present situation, based on that they will be tackling the problems. So everybody cannot have a similar solution. Everybody will be having different solution. Okay, so this is what ethnomethodology will be criticizing. The next line is reflexive sociology. Reflexive sociology is also very much similar to interactionist, that is symbolic interactionist. What they say is that, okay, one of the famous reflexive sociologists is Alvin Goldner. What Alvin Goldner says is that, so human beings reflects on whatever they come across. Okay, human beings have a reflexive understanding, so they reflects on whatever they come across. So meanings keep on changing every time they come across with something. Okay, so that is, meanings keeps on developing one encounter after the other encounter. So meanings are not stagnant. Meanings keeps on changing every time. Understand? So you cannot have a grand theory, or you cannot just have a meta narratives. This is what reflexive sociologists also say. Okay, moving on to the next criticism. Next criticism is given, that is, it is given by Paul Fairbairn. What is Paul Fairbairn? Paul Fairbairn has given a method. Okay, Paul Fairbairn has given a method. It is called as against method. Okay, Paul Fairbairn, he is a sociologist. He has given a method called as against method. In the name itself is there. What is against method? What Paul Fairbairn is against? He is against science. He's against science, or he's not technically against science. He's against using scientific methods in sociology. Okay, what he says is that, see, it's not possible to study sociology from scientific perspective. Okay, why? Because science always try to, give a meta narrative, give one theory. What he says is that whatever one theory, it will be applicable in natural science. But human society, it consists of human beings from different perspective, from different background, different race, ethnic group, etc., etc. You cannot have one single theory. Okay, but science always try to put one single theory for a particular incident. So what he says that we should not use scientific method in order to understand sociology. Understand? So this is nothing but against method. Fine, did you understand? Going to the next criticism. Next criticism is nothing but middle range theory. Okay, middle range theory, this is actually given by Robert Merton. What Robert Merton says is that, see, positivism usually prefers what? It prefers grand theory. Okay, positivistic approach, whosoever studies from that, they will be given grand theory. For example, Durkheim has given grand theory, Karl Marx has given grand theory, or Auguste Comte has given grand theory. Everybody, whosoever studies, they would be given a grand theory. But what Merton says is that it is difficult to give a grand theory. So Instead, he gives one more theory, and that is middle range theory. He says, in order to understand a particular concept, sociological concept, or a society or a social institution, we need to study from a middle range perspective. That is, have small middle range theory. And even in order to understand a grand concept or a macro concept, what you need to do, have multiple middle range theories, have multiple middle range theory in order to get a grand theory. You cannot have one single grand theory. You can have merging of multiple middle range theory, but you cannot have a one single grand theory. So who talks about this? Merton talks about this. And the last criticism what I've taken is given by Max Horkheimer. Okay, Max Horkheimer, what Max Horkheimer has given, he's talking about objective anarchism. Okay, he's talking about objective anarchism. What is objective anarchism? Objective anarchism is the, you know, the motive that sociology has to be studied from an objective perspective. See, if we see here, what is one of the criticism, what is one of the characteristic of positivism? One of the characteristic of positivism is directly observable fact. That is, how are we observing? Objectively. We are trying to understand objectively. We are not having a subjective understanding. Whatever the external reality is there, in a similar way, we are just taking it objectively. So positivism always profess objective understanding. And what most of the thinkers, that is early thinkers, what they professed is that all these thinkers, that whatever it is not studied objectively, it is not science. Okay, whatever it is not studied objectively, it is not science. And if something is not science, that is not a real truth, or it is not a real knowledge. So during 18th and 19th century, so there was too much of emphasis on objectivity. Okay, that is objective understanding. So there was a compulsion that even if you don't believe in objectivity, you have to study from objectivity. So Max Horkheimer is telling that objectivity has become anarchy. It has become anarchy, that it is kind of overtaking whatever the essence of sociology is. See, sociology has to study society. However society is, we have to study that. But objectivity is not making sociologists to study the society as it is. Okay, did you understand? So these are some of the criticism of what? Some of the criticism of positivism. See, I'm not saying that you should write only these points. If you know more than any of these points, you can write that also. But what I say is that, so try to write specifically the criticism of positivism from the school of thought point of view. It will have, like, it will give a very good, good outlook for your answer. Fine. Now, lastly, moving on to the conclusion part. See, in conclusion part, you can just simply say that yes, no doubt, positivism has lot of its criticism, but positivism gave a very good theory. It gave a very concrete understanding of society at large. Something like that, on a simple lines, 1 or 2 lines if you write, it is more than sufficient. Okay, did you understand? See, it's a very simple question. It's the second chapter of the early topic. Please study this. You may think that, ma'am, how to remember so many names? It's very difficult to remember. Let me tell you something. In the same chapter, you will be studying phenomenology, you will be studying ethnomethodology, you will be studying all of this school of thought. Okay, you are not studying something extra. You're studying whatever is already there in the syllabus. Okay, and once you finish the whole revision, you will be remembering all these names, in your fingertips. So please don't worry that how to remember. Eventually you will remember very easily. Okay, I hope you understood how to write this answer. If you still have any queries, please drop your queries in the comment section. Thank you all.